While the direct effects in terms of contagion, fatality, and health expenditure appear to be low in Africa, the indirect effect in terms of economic impact has been huge for Africa. The economic impact stems largely from the response of various countries around the world to the pandemic. So we saw how in Europe and in other places in Asia and so on, countries began to close their borders. Airlines were beginning to, or were forced to stop flying and so on. The trade between nations became extremely challenging. So how Africa responded to that was largely driven by what was happening from place to place. There were places where banks did a lot of business, but with great difficulty. And so if our people had to deal with them, it became a challenge. The containment measures have been associated with severe productivity losses, severe disruptions to global supply chains, and slumps in demand for African exports. If your major export is tourism, and there's a pandemic, of course, if people can't travel to you, you're going to suffer. And that's how economies like Kenya, that thrive on tourism, thrive on flower exports and so on, horticulture, suffered. The demand for Ghana's cocoa wasn't that much affected, largely because of the nature of that. So what happened to African economies was largely driven by what was happening to their trading partners. Of course, uncertainties about the pandemic have led to declines in foreign direct investment and also aid, or the overseas development assistance. These are things that have seen declines. The number of Europeans that were walking to Ghana and want to invest in a factory, of course, went down, largely because they can't travel to this place. And even if they wanted to travel here, there would be nobody to receive them and work with them. Frontier closures, ban on large gatherings, social distancing, curfews, and so on. All of these had a very severe impact on economies. Schools have been closed, and for many of the private schools, it has meant teachers losing their jobs. It has meant informal staff losing their jobs or not being paid. There are parents who have removed their kids from school because they just can't afford to let them stay at home for that longer period. Many of the people who have suffered the most were from the informal sector. So just think about the plumber, or think about the mason who do these, what we call the by-day jobs. If you can't, because of lockdown, walk or travel to a workplace, of course, you're going to lose your means of livelihood. Your livelihood means going to disappear. And many are those who suffered in that way. So there is ample evidence that African economies have struggled a lot through the pandemic.